Centuries we have been conditioned by nationality, caste, class, tradition, religion, language, education, literature, art, custom, convention, propaganda of all kinds, economic pressure, the food we eat, the climate we live in, our family, our friends, our experiences, every influence you can think of, and therefore our responses to every problem are conditioned. Are you aware that you are conditioned? That is the first thing to ask yourself, not how to be free of the conditioning. You may never be free of it, and if you say, I must be free of it, you may fall into another trap of another form of conditioning. So, are you aware that you are conditioned?
How do I free myself from my conditioning and the culture in which I was born? First, I must be aware that I am conditioned, not somebody telling me that I am conditioned. Do you understand the difference? If somebody tells me I am hungry, that's something different from actually being hungry. So I must be aware of my conditioning, which means I must be aware of it not only superficially, but at the deeper levels. That is, I must be aware totally. So to be so aware means that I am not trying to go beyond the conditioning, not trying to be free of the conditioning. I must see it as it actually is, not bring it in another element, such as wanting to be free of it, because that is an escape from actuality. I must be aware. What does that mean? To be aware of my conditioning totally, not partially, because my mind must be highly sensitive, mustn't it?
What do you think conditioning means? Okay. Tanya.
It would make you act differently if you're in the North Pole and if you're in the Sierra Desert. I guess it's kind of like the environment's conditioning, so it's kind of...
I feel like it's kind of like being taught to like be some way almost, or like do like basically act a certain way, or like just from everything around you. Just
Right.
kind of thinking like, oh, I have to do it like that. I have to do that.
Okay, so are you saying that it's like what your parents tell you to do? Is that what you mean by being taught by things around you, or what do you mean?
Just kind of by like our culture, like how it acts and stuff. Kind of like that.
Okay. John.
Well, like, having grown up in California, I tend to lean towards being, like, a Democrat because, like, I go to this school and I live in Ojai and it's a pretty, like, democratic place. Now, like, if I would live in, like, the middle of Texas, I probably would be, like, Republican just because everyone around me would be Republican. And so I would be conditioned to believe things that are more Republican. And here I'm more conditioned to believe things that are, like Democrat. Like your environment kind of, you learn how to act by how other people around you act. And maybe that's what conditioning is here. Like you follow other people's lead.
Okay. Has anyone, raise your hand, don't say anything, has anyone been to a place that they feel is very different from Ojai? Dakota, what place are you thinking of? Say it again?
New York City.
Okay, how is it different?
It's like Ojai is a small community that's very close, and you tend to know a lot of the people that live here. Whereas in New York, sure you can know a lot of people, but you won't know a majority of the people. It's big, and I guess you could say it's kind of scary. It's like kind of, I think Ojai is like a soft, warm place where New York is kind of like a cold, sharp wind.
Makani.
Bodhgaya.
Bodhgaya. Does anyone know what Bodhgaya is? Where's Bodhgaya, Makani?
In India.
It's India? Okay, how is it different from Ojai?
Okay, well, yeah, first of all, Bodhgaya is huge, and here we have, like, paved roads, and, there's not a lot of paved roads in Bodhgaya, or at least where I was, and, like, here everybody's kind of, well, everybody at least, like, has a house, or at least if they don't, they're not, like, on the street showing it, but if they don't have a house, they're on the streets every day, like, lines of people, like, begging for money, and, like, climbing at your car and stuff, and then there's not like, here it's more like rulesy, and like here's a path, follow it, you go this way, you go that way. There it's like on the street, there's no like lines, it's like everybody's going either way, just trying not to hit each other and stuff.
Michael, where have you been?
Well, Greece
Okay.
is like pretty different because when you get there, like I guess you could say like, well, first off, it's like way bigger and everything's like really close together. Like literally, like there's no like a neighborhood here, a neighborhood there. It's like all one big neighborhood basically,
Oh.
and it's like so like basically everything's like really blue and you're by the ocean like pretty much all the time. You can like look over and see the ocean that side, look over see the ocean that side, and yeah, everything's really green there, and you know it's
Okay. Now, some of you who raised your hand and said that you've been to places that are very different from Ojai. I heard some, like Makani and Dakota and Michael, you all mentioned things about the scenery, sort of, and the setting, and like, what about the people that you interact with from different places? Arte.
Also, the people usually, towns really affect also the environment because usually all the people not like act exactly the same, but they act like kind of similar because also the environment matters. Like as Dakota was saying, in New York, she was saying that's like sharp and edgy. People there aren't just like totally friendly and like welcoming. Like in Ojai is just like, I don't know. I feel like Ojai, all the people here are like really nice and friendly and like open.
Have you been to New York before?
No.
So do you know if they're all open and welcoming and friendly? Okay.
Ojai and Ventura are kind of different.
Huh.
Yes.
Interesting.
I drive down the street of Ojai and and I don't even live here, and I'd see like 2 or 3 people I know. And then I'd go to Ventura and yeah, you might bump into someone at the grocery store, but it's not likely.
So you think Ventura's a little different then?
And Ojai, they just feel very open and welcome because it's such a nice like little community. Ventura's a lot bigger, and it just seems more cold. Like people don't treat you with as much respect as they do here.
That's what, from your experience, what you've like experienced being there and interacting with people in general. It's a generalization, right? Jack, what's up with you?
Well, people have been saying like Ojai is really warm and everyone's friendly, but I was gonna say I've been to Fiji, and there you can walk up to a complete stranger and they can have like a 10 to 20 minute conversation with you, even though they may not speak the same language. They'll do their best and they're so warm and friendly. But I think if I walked up to a random stranger in Ojai, they'd be like, "Who are you? What are you doing?" But then
Why are you
like
talking to me?
in Fiji, they're just like, "Oh, hi," and like they're so warm and they'll do like anything. They're just so nice and just so kind and friendly.
Okay, Makani?
Okay, well, people-wise, yeah, everybody's saying, like, oh, hi, everybody's friendly, so people, you know, yeah, I think that's generalization. But when I went to Oregon, like, if you could hear a lot of times, and like here in Ventura and most cities in California that I've been to, you bump into somebody and they'll just like usually keep walking. But in like Oregon, if they bumped into you, they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And you're like, oh, okay, no, sorry. If you bump into them, they'll be like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And you'll be like, yeah, okay, cool. And then like one day, me and my mom were running, and we were like rows, and we just run like 5 miles, and we were like arguing over something. This guy comes up to us, this random stranger, it's just like, you guys look great today. Have a nice day. And I'm like, you too, man. Everybody's just so nice there, and everybody will just compliment each other. Like you'll be walking down the street, someone will be like, oh, I really like your shoes. Be like, yeah.
Okay, I've heard New York and India and Oregon, and let's go with Michael. Do me a favor. Read the quote from Conditioning, the first one more time. Just the first quote.
okay.
Loudly, please.
For centuries, we have been conditioned by nationality, caste, class, tradition, religion, language, education, literature, art, custom, convention, propaganda of all kinds, economic pressure, the food we eat, the climate we live in, our family, our friends, our experiences, every influence you can think of, and therefore our responses to every problem are conditioned. Are you aware that you are conditioned? Are you aware that you are conditioned? This is the first thing to ask yourself. Not how to be free not how to be free of your condition. You may never be free of it, And if you say, I must be free of it, you may fall into another trap of another form of conditioning. So are you aware that you're conditioned?
Does anyone think that they might be willing, and it's okay if not, but might be willing to take a stab again at what conditioning might be? Seamus.
What you're taught to do and what most other people do.
What do you mean by that, Betty?
What the public does.
What the public does? Okay.
Yes, like normal things that the public does.
Normal things that the public does. Okay. Dakota?
Well, it's kind of like your mold without you knowing you really have a mold. It's, or like, everything that influences you daily kind of becomes a part of you in a way. And so I guess that's kind of conditioning, is like forming yourself, but also like forming yourself based on other things.
RJ?
Well, it's kind of like if you have, like, if everyone in the whole world has an iPhone, then you kind of like are like, oh, everyone has an iPhone, so since they have an iPhone, I should have an iPhone, kind of. Or like if they act that certain way, then it kind of like if everyone in your class is really like proper and sits up and doesn't goof off, then you're kind of taught to do that, and then like yeah.
I think conditioning is kind of like how how you act and how you react based on where you live and who you're surrounded by, and like it's like what you're influenced by. Because if we're in like a culture that like doesn't say certain things, like say for example swearing, then no one's gonna swear. But if you're in a different community where everyone's constantly just throwing out swear words and cuss words, then you're probably gonna learn to eventually start swearing too, because it's what everyone else does. That's like the normal thing for where you are.
John.
Yeah, I think that's the same thing. Like if you're very much affected by the people that you're with at any given time, and if you're with a certain kind of person for a long amount of time, you're going to become like them in a way, and you're going to take on traits of, their personality a little bit and their beliefs a little bit. And if all of the people that you know have very similar beliefs, then you kind of tend to share those beliefs.
And then Emily.
Conditioning is kind of everything. Like, there's not any place where you wouldn't have conditioning. It's where you are, it's who you're with, it's where you go to school, it's what your family believes in. Like going to Oak Grove, I guess I've been conditioned to like love nature. I love being outside and just being around everything's natural because of the way the school's built. And being in a small town, I'm used to not being around a lot of people. Like if I went to New York like Dakota did, I would probably be way out of place. That would be a lot different for me. And it's just kind of, it's all around you. It's everything. It's not on purpose. It's just there.
It's not on purpose. It's just there. Okay, we'll go last two. Bob, then McConaughey.
I feel like it's kind of like what Jack said about like if you're with people that swear, then like you'll probably swear. Like here, there's all these phrases I feel like that people say, or like words that people say, and then like when you get to like the East Coast, there's all these like completely different phrases. Like people say wicked all the time there. They're like, oh man, that's so wicked. And they say stuff like that. And it's like kind of confusing at first. You're like, what? And then like I've actually had like long conversations to like people that live there about this. And there's also all these different like restaurants that they have there. And like we have some restaurants here like In and Out where they've like never heard of it. And it's like here they're all over. And so I feel like you're kind of like it's the same, like especially with the phrases, you're kind of taught to like act like everyone else around you. Because I feel like if I lived there, I'd say like all those phrases, and then when I came here, I'd be like, what does that mean?
And then McConaughey.
I was just gonna say, I almost think it's like a mindset that you put yourself in, because he said you may never be free, and if you say I must be free of it, then you fall into another trap, then a form of conditioning. So maybe it's like the rules that you make for yourself or the rules that other people make for